Hi guys, I wanted to review the progressive era with you. As you can see in this first picture, we have women on the top with a steamroller that says progress, and there are rocks on the bottom that say opposition. So they're crushing the opposition. They are making progress for women. Of course, the progressive era isn't just about women, it's about many different groups of people making progress in the United States throughout the 1900s. So that's where this progressive era name comes from, progress. So as you can see, we are increasing, we're making a better life for everyone as time is going on after the Industrial Revolution begins. Really, we owe the Industrial Revolution, the progressive era reforms or changes, to the muckrakers. So if you didn't know where this English word muckrakers comes from, muck is like garbage, poop, or trash, things that are making your life negative. And then a rake is literally this little tool. Usually you use it for leaves, but it cleans up the mess. So a raker is the person who is cleaning up the mess. So this is where the word muck raker comes from. Let me erase that. And the goal of the muckrakers during this progressive period is to eliminate the corruption that is existing with these big businesses controlling the White House, controlling the government. We had to clean up this corruption. We need to make laws that are going to favor the people, not the businesses. So we're going to make a lot of reforms or changes, okay, to American laws, to American lifestyles. So one of the first and most influential muckrakers is Ida Tarbell. She is focusing on the Standard Oil Company, who, as you know, was owned by Rockefeller. So Rockefeller has the Standard Oil Company, is controlling the government, is creating a monopoly or a trust. He eliminates other competition, and he owns all the things necessary for the process of making oil. So there's no way anyone can enter the oil industry. He has control over everything. So these monopolies. But a lot of people just aren't realizing what's going on in the United States. So she has to write her novel, The History of the Standard Oil Company, and she's going to expose Rockefeller and let him know, let the world know, let the United States know that the Standard Oil Company has these monopolistic practices, these trusts that are illegal. So this is where we learned about the Sherman Antitrust Law, the Clayton Antitrust Law. So again, a trust is a monopoly, taking everything for yourself and eliminating or getting rid of competition. So these are different trusts that the Sherman Antitrust Act is attacking and trying to kill or put in the ground, put in a coffin, and get rid of these trusts. They are no longer legal. You cannot have a monopoly in businesses today. So this is going to lead to our next muckraker. Hold on, I got it. Lincoln Steffens. So Lincoln Steffens is about corruption in the government. So again, these big businesses, these monopolies, these trusts, they're here sitting on the floor of the Senate. So the owners of big business, Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, J.P. Morgan, Henry Ford, they are all controlling the laws that are being approved by Congress because they have the money and the influence to kind of bribe or intimidate Congress into doing what they want. So Lincoln Steffens says, no, this is just terrible for the American people. We need to get rid of these big businesses in the government. So he writes his book, The Shame of the Cities. It's a shame. It's a travesty. It's unfortunate that the cities are being run by these big businesses. So there's two reforms that come out of this. So the first is the 17th Amendment, or direct election of senators. So Congress is not choosing these big businesses to be influencing the laws. Today, we vote for our senators. So in New York, it's like Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand. I voted for those people or somebody to be in the Senate. It's the people's choice. The second is the initiative, referendum, and recall. So basically, the whole part of Lincoln Steffens' reforms is to give more power to the people, less power to the businesses. So people can take the initiative, take the opportunity to offer ideas for new laws. So I think there should be a law that, students can drink coffee in school. So I want to recommend that to my new senator. Be like, hey, this is a really great law that we should do. And they could take it into consideration and bring it to committee and debate it, and it will either be approved or it will not become a law. But it's my idea. I'm just a regular everyday person. The really other important one, referendum. So a referendum is a law that has been suggested by the people that the people now need to vote on. So for example, a few years ago, there was a referendum or a suggested law that school buses should be available to all students in the South Country School District, no matter where they lived. So people voted on it. It did not become law. Most people went against the law because it would cause an increase in taxes to pay for more buses. But the people voted on that law. It wasn't just the school district deciding without any input from the community. And the last one, recall, is that if a senator or a local legislator does something negative or corrupt or illegal, the people have the right to recall or take back this person's position in their government. So again, 17th Amendment and initiative, referendum, recall, all about giving people rights and taking rights away from the big businesses. All right, next up we have Frank Norris. So this is also about monopolies, but specifically in the railroad industry. During the Industrial Revolution, railroads, the Transcontinental Railroad, was needed to get you from the East Coast all the way out to the West Coast. But the railroads were taking advantage of people, especially farmers. So when Frank Norris wrote The Octopus, in this case, the octopus is the railroad companies kind of controlling and taking over everything. This leads to the Populist Party being created. Popular, population, a party for the people, right? And as you can see, it says farmers fighting for freedom, right? So the railroad companies were charging the farmers an exorbitant, a very large amount of money to ship their goods from the south to the north or from the east to the west. Now, the only way the farmers can make money is by transporting their goods to different places. So this had an unfortunate negative effect on the farmers, and they were losing a lot of money. So the farmers wanted the federal government to step in. You need to protect these farmers. How are we supposed to grow things and make money and make a living if these railroads are taking advantage of us? So there's a few reforms that came from Frank Norris's The Octopus. One of those was the graduated income tax. We still have that today. That means the more money you make, the more percentage of taxes that's due. This is our 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, or 16th change or addition to the Constitution. So people who only make $0 to $9,700, only 10% of their income is taxed. Whereas if you're making $510,000 or more, you have to pay $153,000 plus 37% more after that. So the more you make, the more taxes you pay to the government. That was one of the things the farmers desired. They also were able to control the railroad companies. So those are now owned by the US government or local governments and not by individual train companies. And they have subsidies or small loans that farmers can take to protect them. All right, the last person or muckraker is Upton Sinclair. He's probably the most famous of these muckrakers because he's helping consumers the most. You can see in this picture, this man is out to dinner, and in his food, there's rodents and animals coming out, and it stinks. He's holding his nose. Why is he at a restaurant with rodents and spoiled food? Because there were no laws regulating the meat packing industry or the butcher industry of food. So he writes a book called The Jungle. The Jungle are these factories during the Industrial Revolution. So because there could be all sorts of things in your food when it's packaged and you're eating it and you don't know, there were laws that came about. So the first law is the Meat Inspection Act. So these people are inspecting this meat with their little clipboards and notebooks. They're analyzing the meat to make sure it is clean, to make sure it's cut properly, to make sure it is packaged properly. And the second act is the Pure Food and Drug Act. Pure meaning not spoiled, not contaminated. If you realize on food today, we have expiration dates, so we know when food will go bad or get spoiled. We have nutrition facts. We have labels for the food. It tells us everything that is in that package or medicine or food or whatever that we are buying. So we know exactly what we're getting, and we know that it is safe and secure. Of course, all of this would not be possible without the president at the time, Theodore or Teddy Roosevelt. You should memorize this lovely looking face. He is having glasses and a mustache. He is one of the most influential presidents in our country's history. None of these reforms to protect the people, workers, women, children, consumers would have been possible if Teddy Roosevelt did not support them and believe in the American people. All right, so this is the progressive era in a nutshell. Hope it helps.